Hi and welcome to the dox42 class of Word Add-in from 0 to Hero with dox42 version 5. My name is Lisa Pulsinger. I'm Senior Technical Evangelist and Product Manager, and I will be guiding you through this dox42 video tutorial where we will show you how to get started with the dox42 Word Add-in step by step. What we will cover today, we will go through the installation and activation. We will have a look at the tutorials menu, and then we will have a look at the first steps with dox42 templates. You will learn how to add your first data sources. You will learn how to filter data sources and how to build relationships of one another, how to set up input parameters. You will get to know conditions, how to work with types, so how to insert images, sub-templates, QR codes, number formats, and more. We will have a look at repeated sections, so for example, how you can insert dynamic tables. And we will also have a look at the visualizer, at the DataMap password protection, and the bulk letter functionality. Without further ado, let's get started. At first, when you download dox42 from our website, so dox42.com/modules/download, you will get a zip file of the dox42 Enterprise add-in. The first thing you do, you just unzip this one. It's always good to have it unzipped, and save it somewhere on your C drive in order to get started. And the download folder contains various add-ins, Word, Excel, PowerPoint add-in, maybe also the CRM add-in, depending on which download package you download. We want the Word add-in, and to install it, just simply click on Setup Exe, which will open an exe. It asks you if you want to install it. We say yes. Installing is working right now, and now we have dox42, the Word add-in, installed. If you've already previously installed another version, first go to your system administration, delete the old dox42 add-in from your system, and then click on install here. Now, next we will open Word, and we will see that the add-in has been installed. Okay, let's open Word. And we can see now up in our ribbon, we have another menu point here, the dox42 with the dox42 add-in. Now, if this is the first time of you working with the add-in, some icons may appear in gray, and this is because you haven't activated your license key yet. So for that, click on Activate, which then opens a window. Here you can add your license key, or you can import a license file here. If you don't have one yet, you can click on Get Your Free License Key Now. This will lead you to the contact form on our website where you can request one. You will then receive an email with the key, which you can insert here. Okay. So how to get started, the next steps is, at first it's always good when you start with a new program to have a look at the tutorials menu. And here you can find tutorials, documentation, and templates. So under the tutorials button, you will find more useful videos like the one you are looking at today. In the documentation window pane, you will find lots of documentation, so dox42 add-in, dox42 server, and so on, which you can simply open and have a look at. So here a PDF document opens, and Very nice. The third one is the templates, the sample templates. So if you just click on one of those sample templates, open, they get downloaded, and you can directly start with working on a template. Let's, for example, just quickly open the employee contract here. It asks you to store it somewhere. And then we have a dox42 template already open. It helps you get started as well. But today we will start from scratch. We will build your first dox42 template together. And how do we do that? So first of all, the HR department in our demo scenario, they have asked us to set up a training certificate. So they've provided to us an Excel list of participants, of who has actually participated in a dox42 training. We have Martina, Claudius, and Angela. We have the training here, whether they've passed with success or distinction, and what message we would like to get them. So here we have an Excel data source. We have a second Excel data source where we are referencing the training and the trainer and the signature. And then we have a text block with the success messages. So if someone has passed the training with success or with distinction, they will get another success message added. Okay, we have some more details here, but now we have to build the add-in. And as the first thing to get started, it's always good to have your data, like Excel sheets, logos, and so on, to have it all in one folder, and start with a local folder. Don't start in OneDrive or whatever, start somewhere locally on your machine. And within the same folder, we are now adding a new Word document. Of course, you can start, let's certificate. Of course, you can start with an already existing Word document. You don't need to start with one from scratch. I'm just doing that now. Okay, we have a Word document now, and we can already add here, we call it training certificate. We will call it, here we will add participant, training, and success. We will of course want to make this look pretty. We're gonna say this is gonna be green, and this should be bold, and it should look like this. And that's the starting point for our Word document. Certificate, yes. And now, as a first step for dox42 templates, what I always recommend, start by adding a data map. And before we add any data sources, the first thing we're doing is we are going to save this empty data map in the same folder as the template, as the Word template. Okay, you go to File, we click on Save As. We go to our Documents, that's where we have our folder. We have our training certificate, and here we will call it certificate. Okay, best practice, name your data sources, your data map, your template from the start with a good naming convention. This will save you a lot of hassle afterwards. Okay, what we can see now here, we now see a path to where the data map is being stored. Now, at the moment, we're working locally, but later on, when you upload your templates to SharePoint, to your server, maybe to your DMS system, you of course want to reference the data map dynamically. So what we're doing now is we go to File, and we go and link the data map to the document. It now asks us if the data map and the document are in the same directory, or if we want to link the absolute path. They are in the same directory, same folder. So we click on OK. And now the path is updated, and now we've dynamically linked the data map to the document. If we have a look in our Explorer, we can see now we have a training certificate and a certificate data map. Okay, now it's time to add our first dox42 data source. So we go to DataMap and we want to add an Excel data source, so for the participants. I go to Excel, I go and call it participants, and now I'm going to choose the file, pick Excel file, I want this one. And now again, what I have here, I have the absolute path for the file, which is fine for now, but later I'm also going to move the Excel to SharePoint or to where I store my template, and then I need to have the path dynamic, and for that we're working with the doc path variable. So what I can do now is I just mark everything in front of participants and click on doc path, and that's how dox42 knows, okay, I'm looking for the Excel file participants that's actually stored in the same template path as in the same directory as my template. Okay. And now I need to go to the data source output, and I need to tell dox42 which data from the Excel I want to read. And for that, I click on the 3 dots on the data range. This will open my Excel file, and then I can simply mark which data fields I would like to add. If I move this here, you see this is a data field. I want from column A to column E. I want those fields, so I have them available here. And then I click read until first empty cell for the ID field. Why? So if there are going to be more participants in future, so the Excel will expand. If you click this read until first empty cell, the dox42 data source will also expand without you needing to do any changes. The new data will be added. Important, just add the mark to the ID field where you're absolutely sure that this will be added to every list entry, so because it will stop after the first empty cell. It's gone okay. We have our first data source here. We can click on save, so CTRL and S works. We can close it, and now we can go on insert data field, and we have our first data source here. And now we can get going and insert with a double click or drag and drop our first fields. We have the training, we have the success. Very nice. And that's already our first dox42 Word document. Now let's have a look if it actually looks like how we want. So you can always test the generation locally. I go on generate. Template is being generated, and we have for Martina Musterfrau the dox42 training and passed with distinction. Very good. The next thing we also want to give some information about who was actually the trainer. Because we say your trainer, and then the name is very proud of you. Very good, because we have second data source for the trainers. So we will add another Excel data source now. Training, trainer, and signature. All right. I go to my data map, go again on Excel, call it trainer. I'm inserting my file, make the doc path, go on the data source output, and inserting that, read in the first empty cell. Very good. And we can insert the name of the trainer here. Now the trainer is specified. If we have a look back to our Excel, how do we actually know which trainer is the correct one to insert? We have the participants, so we have the training here, the dox42, the advanced, and so on. And how do we know who has trained which person? It is because of here the training. So that's our common identifier. And now we want to link one data source to another one in order to actually show the correct data, the correct trainer. And how to do that? I go to my DataMap and I go to my trainer data source and I make a filter sort around it. And here I say the training here, which is type text. I can sort it if I want to, but I say here should be the same training as I have up here. And this is how I link one data map to another, always have one common identifier with each other. Usually it's the ID. So here we say training text equals participants.training. Very good. And now we generate. We have our training dox42 and Celine Bentley as the trainer. And if we have a look back for the trainers, we can see Celine Bentley has done the dox42 training. Okay. Now actually, so whenever I clicked on generate, I didn't have the option to choose whether I want to generate it for a certain person. It has always generated it for one list entry. But now we're going to add an input parameter, and in the input parameter we are actually going to tell dox42 for whom to generate the training certificate. So I go to my data map and I go to input parameter, and I will call it select participant. I can add a comment. I can say choose the person you want to generate the certificate for. It's done. And I can choose whether I want a text, a select from value, or a select from data source input type. Let's stick with the text for now. We want to have it based on an ID. So here in the default value, I can say, let's take the default value, the ID 2. Okay, so based on an ID, I can choose for which list entry to generate everything. And now I need to go here to my participants, and I need to link it with my data source. So here I need to say my data field ID, which type is numeric, should be the same as what I do in the select participant. To my data source, I go on OK, I go on save, I click on generate. Now it's asking me who I want to generate the certificate for. I say for ID 2. And now I have for Claudius Cloud, I have dox42 advanced, and my trainer is Alana Heinzer. So we have connected data sources and we can choose for who to generate it. If I say I want it for ID 3, then I go to here and then I have Angela Angel, dox42 advanced with distinction has passed. I will also show you another form of an input parameter. That's the select from data sources. That one is useful if you work a lot within the dox42 add-in with a lot of different designers. It helps you to better distinguish for which entry to generate something if you're not familiar with IDs. So let's call the input parameter, I'm going to delete the select participant here. I'm also going to delete the filter from here, and I'm calling it select participant again. The input type now is the select from data source, and I say my main data source is the participants one. The value is ID, but I want the name to be displayed in the field when I generate the document, when I want to generate the document. Okay, I have the participants, I have the ID, and I have the name. And now now I need to link my input parameter again to my participants, so to say. However, I have to do a little something. I need to have like a second data source for my participants, which I am going to call participants input. I'm going back to my input parameter, the select participants, and instead of the data source participants, I'm going to choose the participants input. Why? Because in the participants input, we're not going to filter the input parameter with it. We will use it just to display all my possibilities, but we will filter the input parameter with the participants one. Okay, so I'm going to participants now. I'm going to add another filter sort. I'm gonna call it ID again. It should be numeric, filter equals, and my filter field is the select participant. All right. Okay. Now, when I'm saving my changes, I just go and generate, and now it doesn't ask me for the ID, but I can see the name displayed here. I say I want Angela Angel, and now I have everything displayed for Angela Angel. All right, now let's have a look at how to set up conditions. Okay, so let's say your trainer is very proud of you, should only be inserted if someone has passed with distinction. So we're very strict here. So what we're doing is we go to the automate range window. And here is where you can add conditions, repeated sections, text blocks, and so on. And here we say, so we have marked here everything. When, so this should only be inserted when the participants, the success, here we can choose an operator. We say an equals this time, is this distinction. Okay, and we will give an orange color to the data source. We could also have like a complex condition, but we just want that. We want to insert. So now we have our data field here, and there's always a starting and an end point, and I can move it around how I want. And now let's give this a try. Your trainer is very proud of you. Let's try it for Martina Musterfrau. She has passed with distinction. So yes, your trainer Selina Bentley is very proud of you. We have that in here. And now let's try it with Claudius Cloud. He has passed the advanced but just successful, so he doesn't have this text here. This is how you add conditions. All right. Now we want to add certain types. So what we have a success message as well, which we have stored in sub templates, as in sub text blocks. Okay, let's have a look. We here have our text blocks. For example, there's one for distinction. This one, and we want to insert it for everyone that has passed with distinction. Okay, and how do we insert like pictures, text blocks, Word documents, and so on when working with dox42? We do that via the type functionality and via the path. So what we need now is our participants data source. We want the message field. we say it's a type Word document. And now the directory URL is being asked. Let's first have a look back at our participants Excel. And there we see in the message column, we see text block distinction. So we see a part of the path, basically from the subfolder to the text block. And now we need to tell dox42, look in the same folder, in the same directory as my template, and then go to the subfolders. And this is what we do now is we go here, we give the variable doc path, if you remember that one. And now dox42 will look in the doc path and then go to the subfolder to insert our Word document. And I go to generate Martina Musterfrau. She is an absolute dox42 expert. She has got the distinction document here, the subtemplate that has been added here. And if I generate it for example, for Claudius, who has just passed with success, he has another one here. Okay. And the same functionality, of course, works for pictures. Let's, for example, insert the signature for our trainers, which we have as a picture edit as well. We have the signature. It's a type image. It's also in our subfolders, and I can say doc path here, and then it's going to look in the same folder. The subfolder here, we can give a dimension on how big the image should be, its height and width. Let's say 120. Let's see if that looks great. We go on OK. And now we have Selina Bentley's signature added as well. Very nice. So more things you can do here with the type functionalities. You can specify certain number or date time formats. You can date time images. You can insert barcodes or QR codes, image maps, Word documents, PowerPoints. You can insert PDF as a pictures, PDF attachments, which attaches the PDF at the end, hyperlink, bookmarks, headers, and so on. For the QR codes, let's give this a try. I say it should be a barcode, symbology QR. I want to have it relatively small, pixel size of 80. So now my signature, instead of the picture, it's going to be inserted as a QR code. The next thing we're going to have a look at is repeated sections. And now we say we want to have a section in our document with a table where we have an overview of all the participants. So we're going to make a table. Let's say 3, we want to have the name, we have the training and the success. We want to have an overview for everyone. Now I'm inserting data from the participants input data source. Why? Because the participants one is filtered on the input parameter. That's why we will always only get one person returned. The participants input isn't filtered. So that's why we will get everything returned. I'm inserting name, I'm inserting the training, and I'm inserting also the success. That will give us an overview. And now I want to have this repeated for every participant. What I do is I go to not dynamic column, I go to the automate range, I go to repeat for data source, take the participant's input, I'll give it this color. I could even add a condition if I wanted to. I go on insert, and now we see this gray starting point and end point. And now when I click on generate, I of course here still have my training certificate for Martina, and here I have my table for Martina. on the training dox42 has passed with distinction and so on. So this gives me an overview, and this is how I create dynamic tables. So in order to better distinguish between the two data sources, which is participants and participants input, I can work with the dox42 visualizer. There I can rename fields, I can give labels, and I can also choose whether to show or hide something. For that, I go to my visualizer. I can say show the data source in the data field explorer, yes or no. I could also say if it should be shown in a tree. I say everything from this data source should have the color of this blue. I want the icon for all participants. Let's say this one, it's all. And I can even give a name. I can say here this should be full name. And yeah, I want to be shown full name label instead of name. Go on save. And now I can see here my icon, and if I go and refresh template, now everything that's actually coming from my participants input data source is shown with that color. Everything that's still from the other data sources is shown with the other color. And here it also says full name. My labels are turned on. If I turn off the labels and if I refresh again, it says name again. So I can switch between my own custom names and other names. What else I can do here is I can protect my data map. So if I'm a designer, if I work with sensible data, if I then let someone else want to do the design to make this look nice, but I don't want them to change like anything on the data, I can go on help and setting, and I can set protect data map with password. I can turn it on. I can set a new password. Be really careful. If you don't remember the password, your data map will be permanently locked. It cannot be restored again. You will need to create a new one. So please, please, please note down your password. Okay, data map is protected. Now, when I try to open the data map and I add something, it's locked. So I actually need to go on insert everything in order to open it again. I can still generate a template, I can still design, so I can still add some new fields if I wanted to. No problem. But if I want to make changes to the data map, I just can't do this. Another new feature is the logging, so the trace logging. I can enable it, and I can specify a location where I want to write my log files to. I should just say I want to make it on desktop, and now whenever I like change something, if I have an error, if I generate it, if I want to debug my template, I'm just generating it, and then I go back to my data map. And then I go and show logs. I see my logs here, and I can see the trace, how long's been loaded, and so on. Logging functionality. I can turn it off and on anytime. I recommend to not have it on permanently, but rather when you want to debug something. Also turning this off. Okay, there's one more thing I would like to show you, and that's our bulk letter functionality. But I will show you that with a different template. So let's say you would like to generate not just one document, but actually you want to generate more documents. Then you can do this with the bulk letter functionality. I'm opening up another template, in my case my employment contract. And by the way, if you've previously used dox42 version 4 or beyond, and if you've changed to 5, just click on refresh template, and your template fields will be reloaded. Okay, for my employment contract, I want to not just generate it for one entry, but for more. And what I can do is I go to my data sources, to the bulk letter functionality, and I can say where the documents should be saved. I say the doc path, so the same folder. I can also open the Explorer. I have my documents. I have my training certificate. I have this one here. I make a new folder where I say contracts. So I say I want my contracts to be saved here, and then I'll give it a dynamic file name. So it should have the name underscore. So here the syntax is always the data source name dot the data field name, and I want to save the documents as a PDF. Okay, it's gone okay. You can see all of that here, our bulk letter functionality. And once I click on generate, it will now, I have 3 employees, so it would generate 3 documents for me. It would save it here. I could still change it if I wanted to. If you generate it with the server, this path will be overwritten later on. No worries. I go to start, and now dox42 not just generate one contract, but actually 3. And if we have a look at our contracts template, we have 3 here with a dynamic file name. We have Max Mustermann here, the contract for him, but also for Ralf and another person. All right, that was it. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to know more about dox42, more resources, please go to dox42.com/resources. We are very happy to hear from you and for you to have fun with testing.